Hello guys and welcome back to Excel Tutor Academy. So guys, today we are going to do the lecture third of the chapter Genome Structure, Chromatin and the Nucleosome from the Watson Summary series. So for the previous lecture guys, you can go to the Excel Tutor Academy YouTube channel, go to the playlist. Either you can go to CSAR or you can go to the Watson playlist itself if you really just wanted to learn about the Watson Summary series, okay? So in the previous lecture, we talked about the genome size and the varying complexity. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about genes make up only small portion of the eukaryotic chromosomal DNA. Okay. Now why? Because if you remember in the previous lecture, when we were talking about the same size of the genetic material, we saw that E. coli had all the good genes, that is functional genes, whereas in the case of humans, you can see that so many introns were present, right? So, and they had only small number of functional genes and huge number of introns were present, right? So, in the same, that is what we are going to discuss here right now. So, there are two factors which contribute to the decreased gene density observed in the eukaryotic cells. Now, what are those? So, first of all, it is the increase in the gene size and increase in the DNA between the genes. So, intergenic sequences they are talking about. So, what are these intergenic sequences? They can be interons, okay, and the other untranslated regulatory sequences are also present, which are really not involved directly in the gene function, but they help in the regulation. Okay, so yeah, so reason protein encoding genes in eukaryotes frequently have discontinuous protein coding regions like introns. Now, what these introns? These introns are removed during the process called RNA splicing. So the presence of introns can dramatically increase the length of the DNA required to encode a gene. So इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Even though suppose your functional gene is this much, but before it gets transcribed, this might be present like such a huge portion of which few sequences only are responsible so that it can become a functional gene. So you need to remove all these portions, and that is what is called RNA splicing. ठीक है? सो ड्यूरिंग दिस प्रोसेस जो भी काम के नहीं रहते हैं उनको निकाल दिया जाता है एंड जो उसको एक्सॉन्स कहते हैं उनको साथ में जोड़ लिया जाता है सो दैट वो एक फंक्शनल आरएनए बन सके. So let's this will be clear with this diagram. You can see that आप देख सकते हैं a DNA portion is given, right? And in this DNA portion you can see you have got the exon 1, 2 and 3 and you have got intron 1 and intron 2. So इसमें क्या होगा? So once this DNA gets transcribed, you get your primary mRNA. ठीक है? Now you don't want this portion because this portion is not going to encode for anything. So during this RNA splicing, this portion is removed and finally 1, 2 and 3 exons gets come together and then they form the functional mRNA. Okay. Now this functional mRNA finally go for the translation. Now here you can ask one more question. Now what is that? Either this from the same portion of the DNA, you can have actually different probability of the exons forming the functional mRNA. It means that you can form 1, 2 and 3, right? 1, 2 and 3 as one functional mRNA. You can also have 1, 3 and 2. इसका मतलब क्या? This portion will come here and this portion will come here. So this will encode for one particular kind of protein and this will code for second type of protein. Okay, so from the same portion of the DNA, you can have different the different forms of the protein coding. Okay, so many probability are possible. Okay, so contribution of the introns and the repeated sequence to the different genomes here. Let's see what they have shown over here. So you can see that E. coli is there, gene density 950. Right now, average number of introns कितने हैं? 0. So this is what the beauty of prokaryotes. They don't have any introns. They don't have the junk DNA, what we usually call, which is present in huge amount in the humans. So the percentage of repetitive DNA is less than 1. So whatever they have, it's all functional. ठीक है? Now, whereas in the case of eukaryotes, you will see that as the organism complexity increases, more number of introns also increases. So you can see in the case of Homo sapiens, you can see what is the gene density? It is 6.25 MB. Okay, genes per MB, the gene density, and number of introns per gene is 6. So you can see that humans are the most complex organism on the earth, and they have the highest number of introns present per gene, and because of which the percentage of repetitive DNA increases. ठीक है? So that's why you see that, and see, एक तरह से देखा जाए it is bad for the humans but it is also good in a such a way, in other way that आपने VNTR सुना ही होगा, variable number tandem repeats and fingerprinting and all. So because of these repeats only, in today's world we are able to do a beautiful forensic science. ठीक है? So even though it was like a junk DNA, but this junk DNA became useful in the application form. Like it has got huge role to be played in the forensic science. So that we learn in the separate section. Okay. Yeah. Now the content of the human genome. So already we talked about the introns are there. So we know that human genome is around having 3200 MB are there. Now out of which you have got the genes and the gene related sequences. So this means what? This is the functional part of your genome. Whereas intergenic means this is the non-functional. ये आपका जो रहता है मोस्टली जंक डीएनए में आ जाता है. ठीक है? So usually people call this as junk DNA. Now under this category itself you have got intergenic regions. Just now we talked about this intergenic regions. Those are nothing but the interons. ठीक है? And genome wide repeats are there. So these repeats are actually, they also act as markers. So later we'll study about this. Now, under this introns of the intergenic regions, we also have unique DNA like regulatory regions and the microRNAs. Now, regulatory regions, where do you see? Where do you see regulatory regions? You see in your UTRs. Now, what is UTRs? Untranslated regulatory sequences which are present before the encoded gene, right? So, even these are required. These are required during your transcription or translation regulation. ठीक है? So even though we say they are of no use, but they are required for the regulation of these two processes. Okay. Then you have got the microsatellites again acting as the small markers. So all these satellite, these markers, they play a very important role if you see in the forensic science point of view. Okay. Now coming to the genes, the functional part of the genome, you have got the genes which are like meant to encode. Then you also have got the related sequence. So again, under the related, you have got the introns, UTRs, gene fragments, pseudogenes. So even this is, since it is just the genes related, even these are present. Okay. Now, let's talk about the pseudogenes. So just now we talked about the pseudogenes. Let's also understand from where these pseudogenes are coming from. So the process pseudogenes arise from the integration of reverse transcribed messengers RNA. So you have got your DNA, you have got your functional genes. So you can see that in between certain introns are present. So after the RNA splices, you get the functional RNA, correct? Now this RNA gets reverse transcribed with the help of RT. What is RT? Reverse transcriptase. Then it becomes your cDNA actually. So here it is given as DNA, it is your cDNA. So what is C here? It is the complementary DNA. Now this gets integrated into the your DNA itself. But it is not coding for anything, right? So that becomes your pseudogene. Now, with the help of integrase enzyme, it gets integrated into your genome itself. So this is how the pseudogenes are present in our genome. Okay. So let's read how exactly this is formed. So when reverse transcriptase is present in a cell, mRNA molecules can be copied into double-stranded DNA. So that is when a cDNA is formed. Now in rare cases, these DNA molecules can integrate into the genome, creating pseudogenes. Now because introns are removed from the newly transcribed RNAs, so these pseudogenes have the common characteristics of the lacking interons. Now this distinguishes the pseudogene from the copy of the gene from which it was derived. So finally what will happen? the sequence of this functional gene and the sequence of this pseudo gene is going to be different since the introns have been removed. Now, in addition, pseudogenes lack the appropriate promoter sequences for their transcription, and because of which what will happen? So they are not part of the mRNA and they cannot further encode for anything. And this is how your pseudogenes are formed. So guys, this is really very important part. Please understand and remember about the pseudogenes. Okay, so this is important. This is important slide, so don't forget it. Now, talking about the microRNAs, so they are the small structural RNAs which helps in the regulation of the expression of other genes, either by altering the stability of the mRNA or its ability to translate. And this is what has been used in most of the viral infection to be controlled. Okay, so most of the vaccines are also formed like that. So what they're saying exactly is that, so once you have a functional mRNA and if you have got the microRNAs and they have got the complementary sequence, so what will happen? Either they will alter the stability of the product. So either this product will be directly degraded or it will be complementary, forming a base pairing with the functional mRNA and not allowing its function. That is not allowing its translation. Okay. So in both ways, it is actually regulating the expression of this particular functional mRNA. We also have thousands of long intervening non-coding RNAs like link RNAs. So like your microRNAs, we also have got the long intervening non-coding RNAs are also there. Now, these RNAs do not encode for any proteins of significant length, but they act to regulate the gene expression. So either it can be positive or it can be negative. So iska matlab kya hua? When you say positively regulation, it means what? It doesn't mean that it is going to increase the mRNA level. It just means that it is going to make the mRNA more stable. ठीक है? So that is the meaning of positively regulation. Now negatively, it means it is going to degrade the mRNA either by binding, either by base pairing with it or degrading it. Okay, so please remember, so in future if you go for the interviews and then they are asking how actually you can measure the amount of the mRNA, so you can talk about this. So you can design an experiment in such a way that you are designing mRNAs, microRNAs in such a way that they will make the functional mRNA stable by binding it. Okay, so in that way, and having these microRNAs will have some kind of color coding or fluorophore you can attach to that. So more fluorescence means what? More functional mRNA has been formed and they are stable. And increase in the fluorescence means increase level of transcription. So this is how you actually understand whether the mRNAs are going to be stable or it is going to be degraded fast. So this is how you do design your experiment. Okay. So this experimental analysis, this concept, what just now I have explained is also again important with respect to your part C for the CSIR exams. Okay, so majority of human intergenic sequences are composed of repetitive DNA. So this we already know, and it has got two classes. So we have got the microsatellite and genome-wide repeats. Let's see what are these. So microsatellite. So what is microsatellite? It is composed of very short randomly repeated sequences. So this is what we talk over here. The most common macrosatellite sequences are dinucleotide repeats like CA, 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 CA. We also have CG, 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 CG. So we also say that they are the CPG islands. Okay, so this all we'll study later. So they are nothing but the microsatellite and they act as the markers. Okay. So these repeats arise from the difficulties in accurately duplicating the DNA, and around 3% of the human genome is having the repeats. Now talking about the genome-wide repeats, talking about this, here the sequences are going to be the larger as compared to the microsatellite counterparts. It will be more than 100 base pairs. Okay, so they may be found either as a single copies dispersed throughout the genome or as closely spaced clusters. तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Either in the entire genome, in few spaces you can see, or in a genome continuously this cluster will be seen. Okay, so this is how your genome-wide repeats are present. Now all these, either it is the microsatellite or the genome-wide repeats, they are both formed from the transposable elements. Now this is what we have known from the genetics, transposable elements. The concept was given by Barbara McClintock, and there she has mentioned about the transposable elements. So here we are just going to mention about the transposable elements, and in detail we will study in the genetics portion. Okay guys. So what are these transposable elements? So they are the sequences that can move from one place to another into the genome. So in the genome you have got the sequences. Now if they have got the transposable elements, so they get flying from here, they go into different places and they get integrated over here. So it means what, they are just also called the jumping genes. Okay, so they are also called the jumping genes. So during this transposition, the element moves to a new position in the genome, often leaving the original copy behind. So they can multiply, accumulate throughout the genome, and it is relatively rare in the case of human cells. So she found in the case of maize and corn. So there she has first understood about the transposable elements. Yeah. So, although it is tempting to refer a repetitive DNA as junk DNA, the stable maintenance of these sequences over thousands of generations suggests that intergenic DNA confers a positive value or selective advantage to the host organism. Guys, यही मैं आपको बोल रही थी, इवन तो हम इसको बार बार जेनेटिक जंक डीएनए कहते हैं, बट एक्चुअली इनका बहुत सारे रोल होते हैं. आप ये सोचो, अगर हमारे जीनोम में रिपीटिशन नहीं होते, रिपीटेटिव डीएनए नहीं होते, तो जस्ट इमेजिन अगर एक छोटा म्यूटेशन होता तो हमारे कितने सारे फंक्शनल जीन्स डिस्टर्ब हो जाते, हमें कितनी सारी ज़्यादा बीमारियां होती. बिकॉज आज का जो लाइफस्टाइल है, हम जो खाते पीते हैं, या जेनेटिक ले लो, म्यूटेशन रेट इज़ वेरी हाई. ठीक है. इफ सपोज नाउ वी हैव सच ए लॉन्ग, सच ए वाइड जीनो, एंड उसमें म्यूटेशन होते रहते हैं, सिंस दे आर नॉट एनकोडिंग फॉर एनीथिंग, so mutation is not having any effect, it becomes null, right? Unless until it is affecting the gene, तो हमें कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो रही है. सो ये एक इसका एक नेचुरल सिलेक्शन एडवांटेज हुआ है हमें, that we have got the wide genome. Just imagine, suppose we had the genome like E. coli, like all the genes, all the sequences are really very important to us. एक mistake, एक mutation is enough to kill us, right? So that's why we shouldn't say that our repetitive DNA is the junk DNA, because it's not junk, it is actually playing a very important role. It is preventing us from many mutations. And you know that if there are 5 or more mutations which gets accumulated inside a cell, that cell undergoes transition from normal to cancerous. Okay, so it is actually playing a very important role. So that's all for today's, guys. Thank you. I hope you're watching the series, Watson series, and soon we'll complete this chapter also. So keep watching Excelsior Academy. If you like it, please share and subscribe with your friend circle also. Study together. And if any suggestions are there, you can also tell me. Okay, and I'm also trying to get more animations or the videos so that you can understand more clearly. So thank you guys for listening. Keep watching.